All right. So are you ready to like really dive into some cool ideas for making city living more eco-friendly?
I am totally ready. Let's do it.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So today we're going to be focusing on Chapter 9, sustainable living spaces from our favorite handbook, Urban Independence, A Guide to Self-Sufficiency in City Living.
Yeah, great chapter.
I'll be honest with you, I used to think sustainable living meant I had to ditch the city and build a cabin in the woods.
Right. I think a lot of people think that.
Yeah. But this chapter really changed my perspective.
Yeah, it's fascinating how it reframes sustainability for us city dwellers.
Mm-hmm.
It's not about being 100% self-sufficient, living off the grid, which can feel kind of impossible in a city.
Right.
It's more about taking practical steps and, understanding those core principles to reduce our impact.
So you're saying even for those of us who aren't ready to give up our takeout and ride sharing, this chapter is still relevant.
Totally. Section 9.1 even tackles that misconception head on.
Okay, cool.
Introduction to Urban Sustainable Living, it's called.
I like it.
It really emphasizes that it's about making those conscious choices that reduce our reliance on external systems.
Okay, so what does that actually look like? Give me an example.
Okay, so think about growing your own food. Even if it's just herbs on a windowsill.
Right.
That's a step towards relying less on industrial agriculture. Or imagine your apartment building had solar panels.
Oh, cool.
Even if they only cover a portion of your energy needs,
Yeah.
these small choices really start to add up.
That makes a lot more sense.
Yeah.
It's not about becoming totally off grid. It's more about shifting the balance towards more sustainable practices.
Exactly.
Now, what about green buildings? Does Section 9.2 cover that?
Yes. This Section 9.2, green building and retrofitting, making your space work smarter.
Ooh, I like it.
It's all about designing and updating buildings with eco-friendly features. And guess what?
What?
It applies to both new constructions and existing buildings.
Okay, so for those of us who are not in the market for a brand new apartment, tell me more about this retrofitting.
Retrofitting is basically giving your older building a sustainability makeover.
Oh, nice.
It's about updating those spaces with features that make them more environmentally friendly.
Love it.
So imagine swapping out those old drafty windows for energy efficient ones.
Right.
Or adding solar panels to the roof. Those are classic retrofitting moves.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
I can see how even small changes like that could add up to a significant impact on a building's overall footprint.
Totally. And the chapter even talks about more complex systems.
Oh, like what?
Like installing a gray water system.
Okay.
Which reuses water from your shower and laundry to water plants.
Oh, wow.
Imagine the water saving.
Okay, I am definitely bookmarking that idea for future renovations.
Yeah.
So what about people who are really limited on space? Does sustainable living even feel possible in a tiny city apartment?
That's a great question, and it's something a lot of city dwellers struggle with. Section 9.3, Sustainable Housing Cooperatives. Strength in numbers tackles that head on.
Co-ops for sustainability. Okay. Intrigued. Tell me more.
So picture this. A co-op in Seattle saved $10,000 per year.
Why?
By installing a shared solar array that provides power to multiple units.
Right.
That's just one example of how co-ops can pool resources and make sustainable choices that might be financially out of reach for just one person.
That's an incredible example. It shows that we don't have to tackle these challenges alone.
Totally.
There's power in collective action.
Absolutely. And it's not just about the financial benefits. It really builds a sense of community around sustainability.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Now, for those of us with limited space in our apartments, Section 9.4, Space Efficient Design, living large in a small footprint, offers some clever solutions.
Space-efficient design. Oh, you're speaking my language. I live in a tiny apartment. I'm all ears for tips.
I hear ya. The beauty of space-efficient design is that it's not about minimalism or, sacrificing your style.
Okay.
It's about making smart choices to maximize functionality and minimize waste. The chapter has some brilliant examples, like using multifunctional furniture.
Oh.
Think a sofa that transforms into a bed.
Ooh. I've always wanted one of those.
Or incorporating vertical gardens to bring the outdoors in without taking up floor space.
I love that. It's like turning limitations into opportunities for creative design.
Exactly. And these strategies can not only reduce your environmental footprint, but they can also make your small space feel way more open and inviting. Now, here's something I personally find exciting. Using natural and recycled materials in our living spaces. Section 9.5 covers this.
Natural and recycled materials. That sounds like a win-win for both aesthetics and the planet.
Exactly. The chapter highlights the benefits of incorporating materials like reclaimed wood bamboo or even recycled plastic into your home decor and renovations.
Yeah.
Think about the character and unique beauty that reclaimed wood brings to a space, or how recycled plastic can be transformed into stylish furniture. And it's not just about the looks, the aesthetics. Natural materials often have like amazing functional benefits too.
Oh, really? Like what?
Well, the book mentions straw bale construction, which,
Straw bale construction.
yeah, it might sound kind of out there, but
Yeah.
straw bales are incredible natural insulators.
Oh.
They can help keep your home warm in the winter and cool in the summer.
Wow, that's pretty amazing.
Talk about energy efficiency.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Speaking of energy efficiency, this chapter also mentioned like choosing sustainable materials for renovations.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Even if you're not building a place from scratch, you can still make those eco-conscious choices when updating your space.
Right.
So, like, instead of using conventional paint, which often has those volatile organic compounds, the
Yeah.
VOCs, you could go with a low VOC or natural paint.
Oh, cool.
Those are made from plant-based ingredients.
Nice.
It's a small change, but it can make a huge difference for indoor air quality and, your overall environmental impact.
It's amazing how much there is to consider when it comes to creating a sustainable living space.
Right.
It's not just about energy efficient appliances or composting. It's about thinking about every aspect of our homes and the materials we bring into them.
I completely agree. It's about like shifting our mindset,
Yeah.
Yeah.
from this consumerist approach where we're always buying new things to a more mindful one,
Like that.
where we consider like the life cycle of the things we use and prioritize quality and durability over trends.
Okay, so how can we as individuals like start to make these shifts?
Yeah.
What are some steps we can take to like incorporate these principles into our city dwellings?
It starts with awareness,
Right.
just being aware of the choices we make and the impact they have.
Makes sense.
Then we can start making those small changes in our daily lives,
Yeah.
like swapping out those disposable coffee cups for a reusable travel mug,
Right.
or choosing to walk or bike instead of driving whenever you can.
Good ones.
Those might seem small on their own, but they add up to a more sustainable lifestyle.
I love that.
Yeah.
It's about taking ownership of our choices and realizing that small actions can make a difference. Now, what about the bigger picture? Like, how do we create more sustainable cities as a whole?
Oh, that's where things get really exciting.
Yeah.
The book talks about like community level initiatives and policy changes to really drive that systemic change.
Okay.
Things like urban planning that focuses on green spaces, walkable neighborhoods, and access to affordable public transportation.
Right. Because if our cities are designed for sustainability, it would be much easier for everyone to make those sustainable choices.
Exactly. Imagine living in a city where green spaces are just part of every neighborhood, bike lanes are everywhere, and public transportation is efficient and affordable.
Oh, man, sign me up for that city. But realistically, how do we actually get there? How do we implement those changes?
It takes collective action. Citizens advocating for policies that promote sustainability, supporting those local businesses that prioritize eco-friendly practices, and getting involved in community initiatives that are working to make our cities greener and more resilient.
So it's about recognizing that we're all part of a larger ecosystem
Yes.
and that our choices, along with collective action, can really create positive change.
Exactly. And it's not just about the environment. Creating sustainable cities also leads to healthier communities, better air quality, less traffic, and a stronger sense of connection with the people around us.
It sounds like a win-win for everyone. This conversation has been so inspiring. It's like a roadmap to a brighter, greener future for our cities.
And remember, this is just the start. There's so much more to explore when it comes to sustainable living spaces and urban design.
You're right. We've only just scratched the surface here. But before we wrap up, I have a question for our listeners.
Oh, I'd love to hear it.
What resonated with you the most from what we talked about today? What idea or concept, maybe even a suggestion, sparked your imagination or made you think differently about your own living space and the potential for change?
We'd love to hear your thoughts because at the end of the day, this deep dive is all about giving you the power to make informed choices and take action to create a more sustainable future for you and your community.
As we wrap up this deep dive into sustainable living spaces, I can't stop thinking about how much potential we have to create real change in our cities.
Yeah, totally.
It's not about waiting for someone else to fix things, It's about each of us taking ownership and making those choices that build a more sustainable future.
I love that. It reminds me of something we talked about earlier, building community resilience.
Oh, yeah, that's a good one.
I'd love to explore that a bit more.
Oh, okay, yeah, let's do it.
Yeah.
What does it actually mean, to create resilient communities when we're talking about urban sustainability?
Resilience is all about the ability to adapt, withstand, and bounce back from those challenges,
Hmm.
In the context of cities, it means creating communities that are ready to face those unique urban challenges, whether it's climate change or resource scarcity or even social and economic disparities.
Right, makes sense. But how do we actually put that into action? Like,
Yeah.
what can individuals and communities do to foster that resilience?
Well, the book highlights a few key strategies.
Yeah.
One is strengthening those social connections.
Oh, interesting.
It might sound counterintuitive, but that sense of community belonging actually plays a huge role in building resilience.
Okay.
When people feel connected to their neighbors and their community, they're more likely to support each other when things get tough.
So it's about more than just living in a city. It's about being a part of a community.
Exactly. It's about creating those informal networks of support,
Yeah.
like checking in on elderly neighbors, organizing events, or just striking up conversations with people you meet.
Right.
Those small acts of kindness can really make a difference in building a more resilient and supportive community.
I love that. It takes a village, right?
Totally. And speaking of villages, the book also talks about how important it is to localize resources.
Okay.
The more self-sufficient a community can become, the less vulnerable it is to disruptions in those external systems.
Makes sense.
So it's about promoting local food production, supporting local businesses, and even creating community-owned renewable energy sources.
Shifting our focus from relying on those global supply chains to really nurturing our local economies and resources.
Exactly. And that localization not only boosts resilience, but it creates economic opportunities and strengthens those community bonds.
I like it. Now, we can't talk about resilience without talking about climate change. How can we as city dwellers prepare for those increasing risks that come with extreme weather and rising sea levels?
That's a big one. And the book has a whole section dedicated to climate adaptation strategies.
Okay, good.
It talks about investing in green infrastructure like parks and urban forests,
Okay.
which can help with that urban heat island effect and also absorb excess rainwater. And it stresses the need to update building codes to withstand stronger storms and rising sea levels.
So it's about thinking long term and making those investments that will protect our cities and communities for years to come.
Exactly. And it's not just about physical infrastructure.
Right.
It's also about educating people about climate risks and giving them the tools to take action. The book encourages communities to develop emergency plans, establish early warning systems, and create those community resilience hubs
Oh, interesting.
where people can access resources and support during and after a disaster.
It's amazing how many different parts of building resilient communities there are.
Right.
It's the social connections, the local resources, the climate adaptation, and so much more.
And it's an ongoing process.
Yeah.
A constant journey of learning, adapting, and working together. It requires a real shift in mindset. From that individualistic thinking to a more collective one where we see how connected we all are and work together to create thriving, resilient urban ecosystems.
I love that. As we finish up this deep dive, I'm feeling really hopeful. This chapter has shown us that even though the challenges are there, the solutions are within our reach.
I agree.
It's about taking action, big or small, and realizing that each step towards sustainability is a step toward a brighter future for ourselves, our communities, and our planet.
Couldn't have said it better myself. It's a journey we're all on together, and the more we collaborate, innovate, and support each other, the more resilient and thriving our cities will be.
Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. We hope it's inspired you to think differently about sustainable living in your own urban space and to really get involved in building a more resilient and vibrant community.